Good evening, everybody. Welcome aboard. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had you here in the man cave, or the studio, so to speak, and thought we'd better squeeze in one more show before the year rounds out. It's coming pretty quick, so a little bit to talk about tonight, but also very excited to have a very special guest from across the ditch. We had to wait to align the time zones and get him when he was free, but joining us this evening, Steve Jnr Johnson. Thanks for coming along.
Yeah, no worries, Phil. It's been a while. We've been chatting on and off about this for quite a while, so it's cool to be on, and we're all done now for the year, so on track anyway. And I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
I'm here too, Andrew.
Yeah, not to be outdone, I better introduce the regular jokester to the room, and here we go. Even got you some subtitles here, Baz. Well, I thought I did, but anyhow, they're not coming up on screen, so you'll have to put up without it. Hang on, I'll just change it around. There you go, Baz Johnson. Even got your official logo in there.
My logo and everything.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So very good.
Get a bit upmarket.
So yeah, Stephen, we all saw the action at Mount Panorama. You mentioned your season's over. It was pretty exciting to watch the XD around the mountain again. You got to go there twice this year, and by the time you turned up second time round, you managed to bag a couple of wins.
Yeah, we certainly made some good little improvements to the XD. It's still not where we want it to be. It's still a little bit hard to drive, and not as nice as the Mustang. It's a totally different beast. It's very, I guess, late model in regards to under the skin, and it doesn't like any of the things that the Mustang likes. So it's interesting just going through that, and learning it. We've had the thing ready to race since the start of 2020, where we raced at the Clipsal or the Adelaide or whatever you want to call it, the Super Loop. Went through that many names. Great initial showdown for it. And then obviously we all know what happened to the world since then. So it's been on and off now. We did win last time out before Bathurst at Sydney Motorsport Park. I think that was probably more tyre management from myself and tyre strategy that sort of was able to bag that win and stump a few along the way. But Bathurst this time around, it was surprising. It was surprising how much faster we were and just how much better the car was. But still, we've got a lot of improvements to make to it, which is encouraging for us. Probably not so for the competitors.
We shared a few messages during the weekend, and obviously first off, 40 years on from the old man bagging his first Bathurst 1000 in the XD2, and you obviously going and winning an XD3. We joked a little bit about the lap times from when we were there in 2019 and giving Angus Foggs what I call the lap of the ring, the lap of the ring-ins, I think I called it, giving that a bit of a nudge.
Yeah, I was, there's honestly right now there was no chance that any of us were getting in that time. It's great time, but and for everybody that knows, like you guys and Angus and all of us drivers, the two specs of the two lots of cars are miles apart. So
sure.
Not even really in the same class. I loved racing them against them. I loved the competition. It made me drive harder because, where that was superior was far superior in those areas, which was, a lot of the straights as well. Then where my strength was across the top of the mountain. So, for what they would gain up the straight and down Conrod, I just couldn't make up that gap across the tops. So it was actually quite good to be able to push me along a little bit. We set some really, really good times, which are still at this was up until last weekend, still TCM race lap records. So,
yes.
But we're still a long way away from that 14 that Angus did. So, we may get there, but it's going to be another 12 or so months before we, I think, get close to that.
Yeah. No, look, it's still very impressive, and I must vouch. I went there and tried to get across the top of the mountain, but you guys certainly showed us a thing or two. Now, I probably jumped a little bit forward from where I was intending to start, but there's really no scripts to these, is there, Barry? We pretty much go organically.
No,
But
just
you
wing
mentioned we'll go back to Mustang Sally, and I'm just showing a picture here to our viewers. I think this was when you claimed the two-peat in the TCM. You bagged 3 championships back to back in Mustang Sally. So you're doing the big burnout here for the victory celebrations.
arm out the window.
As only
I'm out the window at Newcastle.
yeah, that'll be the one.
Yep.
And yeah, obviously went on to bag 3 titles consecutively, which was pretty impressive before jumping into the XD. And it's something that, in New Zealand, there's a lot of people that follow the TCM, and certainly, the Johnson team, 17's pretty synonymous over here. But to watch the build, and we'll just put a photo up here of you and Dickie cruising with the XD on the trailer out the back window, the selfie you took many moons ago. It was a great project to watch, and thanks for sharing it all with us. It was obviously quite a journey to relive building a car that's iconic to your father.
Yeah, it was, Andrew. It was something that we've been wanting to do for a little while, and we needed to wait for the right time, and needed to wait for the XD to be compliant for TCM racing. And when it was, and we were working with TCM, the previous TCM owners, quite hard on that, because I think they also realised how cool and how much, following that would create within the TCM ranks. So the amount of people that I've had come up to me and just thank us for building that car, and thank us for bringing back those memories is really cool. And that was honestly what it was all about.
Yeah.
If you look at it from a pure performance point of view, the rules in TCM, in my opinion, quite favour the lower capacity cars, right? So they really favour the 5 litre cars over the 6 litre cars. So ours being a 6 litre car, obviously Royal Harris a 6 litre car. You got Marcus Zukanovic's XD 6 litre car. Bressington's Camaros and all that 6 litre cars, but you've got the Hansfords and the Bow and the Jim Policina and the Dean Lilly Tiranas that I think are, that's the best spec to have in TCM, because of, a 6 litre car and the 5 litre car. The difference in power is actually quite minimal now. You're getting, well into the mid 600s horsepower with a 5 litre Chev, and you're getting maybe 80 more horsepower within our rules anyway. I know Angus has got about 1 million, but we've only got about 740 or 50.
Yeah.
And so the nearly 200 kilos of weight difference between the 5 and 6 litre cars, with them being on the same size tyres and the same size brakes, is really a massive advantage for them. So honestly, going back to the XD build, if I was to purely build, and Dad and I spoke about this, purely build a car for TCM that would truly be fast and dominate, we would have built a Fox body Mustang. And because they're a 5 litre car, they've got coil-over rear end, whereas the XD's got leaf spring rear end. And you can run LiDAR, we can get the power out of the 5 litre. So we would have actually built a Fox body Mustang. But, the Johnsons aren't synonymous for that 85, 86 Fox body Mustang that Dad raced. So it all happened with the XD. And
Yeah.
that's why we built the XD. We are very proud of the XD. And we didn't, just sort of going back to it, we didn't build a car just to purely dominate anything. We built a car to really bring back the livelihood and where it all started for our family and a lot of fans, and we were in the hope of trying to make it competitive.
And the beauty of that is that there is a lot of family input into it. Looking at all the shots, the videos, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty cool to see, and that's why I put quite a few videos and photos up of the build, because not only one of my ex-lead mechanics on my supercar was working for me at the time to help us build it. Obviously, Dad was there. Dad's brother, Dino, or David Johnson, who's been part of the DJR team who's no longer, he's retired, but was a part of through all those days, those True Blue, Green Stuff, Sierra days, right into the EB Falcon era and the new V8 touring car era and so forth. And even he was there, not just a little bit. He was there quite a bit and quite late nights and all that. So it sort of almost felt like we were back at Daisy Hill building a car in Mum and Dad's shed, where we were we were on the Gold Coast in our little shed, separate to DJR, mind you, building our own XD.
Yeah, you mentioned Daisy Hill, Stephen, and I went to try and find it. Obviously, our fathers have raced together back in the 80s, and he got invited to Daisy Hill one day for a dinner and rocked up there. And I believe you were running around on the deck, jumping up and down on the trampoline. And Mum had a photo, but I can't find it, so I won't embarrass you. That one's not being shared. But yeah, I mean, I can vouch for it. I suppose I can reminisce a little bit with the career my father's had, and some of these shows have been a little bit about that, just bringing out the history and sharing it for the next generation. And yeah, I mean, I suppose speaking to everyone back here in New Zealand, your XD project here has sparked a hell of a lot of interest, and yeah, it's certainly iconic for the Johnson name and the team going forward, and certainly it's been well received over this side of the ditch, and hopefully you can bring it over and we can have a bit of a battle against TCM New Zealand over here one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we would love to be able to put together some sort of a program to be able to get it over to New Zealand and show it off and race some tracks over there. And yeah, absolutely. Every time we step in it, I love driving it. So hopefully when the world gets back to a bit of normality, we can definitely look at doing that. And before I'm too old.
Mate, settle down with the grey and old, mate, because we're all getting there. I figured I'd cut it short because it's going to end up short one day, so get there sooner. It doesn't look so bad. But look,
I haven't gone grey. I've just got lack of it.
Fair enough, Baz. Well, Stephen, hey, thanks very much for that bit of an insight into the XD and the decision to build it. Certainly the build photos, they were a hit. They got shared pretty virally, as you probably know. As soon as you put a new one up in a teaser, everyone jumped all over it. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? But just for those who haven't watched one of the shows before, we've got a couple of pictures I'm just going to chuck up here. This is 1984 when Bruce, my father, invited Dickie over to drive Dad's XE at Pukekohe in the B&H, and then later on joined for the inaugural Wellington Street Race back in 1985. And your dad was a star that weekend. He blitzed the field, blitzed all the Europeans, showed them what an Australian muscle car or Australian Group A car could do back then. Putting it on pole position quite comfortably. Unfortunately, we had a few gremlins with it, but put that aside, it was really cool to have your dad as part of the history of our race team over here.
Yeah, and he remembers it. He remembers it vividly, and we speak about it actually quite often. So I've actually got a really cool photo, which I probably should have sent you first, that of Dad in the Pinepac team uniform with the yellow pants. And I don't know what was going on in the background, but there was someone in the background, a girl in the background with a possum on the shoulder. So I don't know, or some sort of animal. Was that right, Baz? Possum?
Yeah, that's correct. That's That's Shane Wigston, and he actually races in the muscle car series over here. That was a young Shane Wigston.
Yeah, it's a cracking photo with Dad standing there in his Pinepac uniform with the beer in his hand. So it's definitely reminiscent of exactly those times.
Yeah, you've caught me on the spot here because I do have that buried away in the archives, and it's now up on the screen for people to watch.
The photo's up.
The photo is up. So we reshared it just recently, and it was quite ironic that we actually found who it is, and you'll have to apologise to Shane Wingston because it isn't a girl; it's actually a guy. So,
I'm only going off muscle memory here. So
we'll let you off.
I know it was. It's not that the quality's not. Sorry, Shane, but the quality's not as good as what it is these days. Mate, so
your Dickie's. Dickie's holding
Dick's
the
got a colour-coded can.
He's got the 4X going.
Yep. He has.
And he's got the yellow pants going. So I don't think that still exists in his wardrobe. I think that one's probably well and truly disappeared.
You'd be surprised. He doesn't throw out much stuff, so I'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, a little bit of a similarity, obviously, over here because we were at Bathurst in 2019. I jumped forward. I've got an image here up of us parked in the pits. Bruce went over and raced the 69 Mustang in 2016, and when he first said, hey, the cars are eligible for Bathurst, I thought he'd do the honourable thing and step aside and let the young fella have a go. But no, he took the keys, and we only had the one car back then, and I can tell you it was the longest weekend in pit lane that I've ever stood at Bathurst. But thankfully in 2019 we got to come back and race the XE that we've built, which, similar to your XD, is a tribute to what Dad and Dick did back in the 80s. And more so as well for myself to get to race against someone like yourself. So, and Bowie. So, yeah, geez, those were pretty good memories of not so long ago.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, I mean, I guess the trickiest thing for us, it was actually still part of our championship as a championship race, and then throw you guys in the mix in between us all. It definitely made it tricky, and it made us think what to do, how to do. Sometimes, you know, I think I was in a good spot because I did qualify well on pole, and I was sort of up the front, so it helped me where you guys could get in between. Not that it mattered, but it helped me on the track because even if I finished first in the race and Angus and Hugh Gardner and a couple of others finished second and third, and say Bowie finished fourth, Bowie would still get points for second. So it was almost like, you know, you move the New Zealand cars out of it for our championship, but we were still all racing at the same time. So it was definitely a lot of fun. And as I said before, the strength and weaknesses between your cars and our cars was really cool to run against, and to have those big fields. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have got them. We've got photos of the rolling starts coming down to the last corner and just a sea of cars behind all the way back to the bridge and the last right-hander out of the chase. You know, it was pretty incredible pictures. And, you know, and to be fair, like everyone, you know, did a really, really good job for the weekend. I think we had basically every race lap thereabouts under green, and you guys got a really good run, you know, on the track, which is what, you know, obviously we all wanted for you guys when you come over all this way.
Yeah, no, I can endorse everything you said. From our perspective, getting all those red flag laps, the green flag laps and no cautions was certainly one of the goals that all the drivers had. We were there under invitation, and it's a pretty special invitation to get, so we respected that and tried not to mix amongst you guys too much. But yeah, for the fans, yeah, we were having people come up and just they were all inspired by the big grids. Now I've got to put it out here. It's a bit of
actually I've got to ask you something really quickly with those races.
Okay.
And Barry will back me up here. I'm just wondering, in race 2 when it rained and you didn't go out, I was wondering what happened to you. I'm thinking, the car's got an issue or something, but I'm hearing a different story, that maybe someone behind the wheel was a little bit scared.
Baz, help me out here, mate.
Over to you, Andrew.
Okay. All right. I knew this was coming up because I got a message from you that very evening, and I said, okay, fair enough, get it out. And I've got the image up here. We're rolling to the start for race number 2, and it looks like you're just getting the inside run here on Foggy into turn 1. And yes, in the background is a certain yellow XE Falcon touring down the pits. So, yeah. Look, at the top of the show, I put up the onboard actually of this race, and I did do the formation lap. And contrary to what people thought, that I had the wrong tyres on, I did actually have wets on. But we had just come off a fairly substantial rebuild of the car, and just to get to Bathurst was touch and go. We had to borrow a front end from a very good friend of ours, Barry Johnston's and ours, Ian Ed from Hamilton. He gifted us a whole front end. We chopped the nose off from the windscreen, replaced it, rebuilt the car, only just made it in time to get into the container. Before we went out for that race, the old man and I had a talk, and he said, if you go out on dries, you're parking it. Don't even risk it. And then sort of a Birdie said to me when I went over the mountain, there was a lot of people that worked long hours to get the car on track, and Moselle Panel and Paint, very good friends of the team, did it hours and hours to get it there. So that was for them. That was just to say, hey, I'm not going to risk it. I'd love to. When I was driving down Conrod, I'm pinching myself saying I'm at the holy grail of motor racing circuits, racing against this awesome field, against names like yourself and John Bow, and here I am pulling into the pits. What are you doing? And I like the wet. I race in the wet. I do quite well in the wet, but I just didn't want to be on the highlights reel. I knew I wasn't going to be, but hey, there's a time when you just know, hey, there's other things more important, and leaving it straight for the next one was what I was interested in. So I don't know. That's my excuse.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, and as you know, you mightn't have made a highlights reel, but somebody else could have made the highlights reel, and unfortunately, you could have featured. You know what I mean? You just don't know what happens in those situations, and you can be the innocent party in a bad situation, and or you can be like my mate Matty McKeldin, who last weekend in his Trans Am car made a slight mistake in the final race, and he hit the fence in his Trans Am pretty hard, and you're talking about a $60,000 or $70,000 parts bill alone. So it's not nice. It's horrible when we see that. I know some of the punters love seeing that, but the heartache that it causes after the fact. I mean, I was broken.
How was he after that, Steve? Was he?
Yeah, he was okay.
A bit bruised.
A bit bruised. He popped his shoulder out. They thought he had a broken collarbone initially, or a broken shoulder joint, but it ended up being quite a bad dislocation. So they fixed all that. But yeah, the car's a mess. The chassis, we need to replace the chassis, but they're sort of different. They're like a NASCAR chassis. You pull the bits off and just got a frame left. So, but still, it's heartbreaking to see that. And like you guys, he was doing it. Thanks to he had a few great sponsors like Kubota and a few of those guys that really help him out. But he's a battler doing it just to what he loves, and that this is probably going to finish his racing at the moment, because he'll be able to probably repair it. We're going to help him repair it at Team Johnson, but in the end, once we repair it, it's probably going to be sold, so we can at least recoup. He will gain a lot more by repairing it than selling it as a wreck. So it's pretty sad, but we're doing our best to try to get it repaired and get him back on track.
Oh, that's
good work. Now, Andrew, I was going to say about the pulling in the rain. You probably could have pulled out a porky and said that your wipers stopped working, something like that.
Yeah, look, it was what it was, and I knew that it was going to make the weekend a bit challenging coming from the back of the grid in the next one. But just to have a little bit of balance here, Stephen, and I hope you can hear this audio, because the punters at home are going to watch this. So just listen in, and this is return serve.
Through the mountain as Harris dives down the inside of Seaton at the Forest Elbow section of the course and moves up into third place now.
Yeah, the winner of the Trans-Tasman Trophy is Anderson, just drives past Stephen Johnson in a straight line, and Aaron Seaton in the 5-litre Mustang trying to do the same.
So there you go, mate.
Mate, I can tell you, your car's straight line handling was way better than mine.
Yeah, so hopefully we don't get done for copyright, but that's just a bit of a feature of the Trans-Tasman. So I knew even if I had to start that next race at the back, I was going to be back up the front, and I think I might have messaged you that night saying, "See you on Sunday, mate. We'll see you then." But, all jokes aside, I mean, hey,
very, very cool, very cool.
Yeah, all jokes aside, I mean, just to be on the same circuit and share time with you and Bowie, Aaron Seaton and the likes of Royal Harris, and you talk about the highlights reel. Royal Harris put it in the fence pretty hard in that Trans-Tasman one. Look, I think Foggy and I talk about it every year, and we dine out on it every year. That's how good the memories are of that meeting. So, look, there you go, a bit of balance. You got me, I got you. Hey, it's all fair at the end of the day, and no cars were harmed in the making of good memories and good fun. So,
and people have got to remember too that you guys not only spent a lot of money and time, and you'd rebuilt the car. And I remember seeing that car, photos of your car after the crash, and it was horrible to see. I mean, as I was going to say before, I was devastated last weekend when I blew a right front tyre, and it just pulled the guard off and tore a bit of the spoiler off. I was devastated with that, let alone having a big shunt. But, you've come a long way to come and drive the track. And people got to realise you can't just bring a heap of, all your spares and stuff like that over. Like, you've got limited resources, you've got limited parts. So if anything major was to happen, like Hugh Gardner, like he missed quite a few races because he literally had to get stuff made in Sydney and then shipped up to Bathurst. So, it's a hard situation to be in. You want to go and you want to drive, but, one little mistake and you could be out, 2 or 3 laps into 3 races and you've really driven Bathurst only a handful of times.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. So, yeah, look, sometimes as much as people don't think that we drive with a little bit of reserve, there was a fair bit of that from the Kiwis because they knew, hey, it was a lot easier to roll the car back into the container with all 4 wheels pointing in the same direction than it was just sweeping the bits in. So, look, we talk about our XE, and as you know, it was a tribute car to what our two fathers did back in the day, and it was quite cool to have Dick over, and I'm just sharing a photo of when he came over for the Legends of Speed not long after we built that car. And funny story, I was there working on it, changing some front pads, and this guy stood next to me and was chatting away, and I couldn't see him out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, kind of a little bit busy here, mate. Can you kind of like come back later, I'm thinking? And turn around, look up, and it's Dick standing there, and I went, oh, sorry, Dick, and put all my tools down and got up and talked to him. So, yeah, he was very obliging. Just said, hey, just carry on what you're doing and I'll talk to you in a minute. So, yeah, it was cool to have him come over and endorse the new car. But one of the things that the team and more so Mum and Dad who own the car have thought about, and you and I have had an offline chat on this, but it hasn't been made public, that there's actually an open invitation out for you at any time when the borders open, when time permits and travel permits, to actually do a formal race meeting here at a TCM New Zealand meeting in the new year. So I've made that invitation to you. It's now public, so I have to stand by it.
Yeah,
I've got to give my car over, and so we'd love the opportunity for you to come over.
Yeah, and I said to you, obviously, in our private messages and chats, that it'd be something that be a great honour for me. There's a lot of legacy there between the two families and a lot of history as well. So, yeah, it'd be an absolute pleasure for me to come over and be able to compete in that car, in your car, and obviously against a lot of the people that I've raced against in the past.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Stephen's got a phone call coming through.
I have.
Maybe that's Angus Fogg. I've been so busy and preoccupied I haven't looked at the chat reel here going, and Foggy's actually trying to get a word in. He wants to be famous again. He goes, who is that slow old black thing? Yeah. I heard it had a 500 cubic inch engine.
Yeah, and it's the only car I think that's gone around that Panorama with injectors that flame in the exhaust on the way around. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. And he wants to know.
I did ask my old man if I could put that in the XD, and he looked at me with probably the face that you've seen him look at you at sometimes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So we're not putting the flamethrowers in, Dad?
No, he won't let me put flamethrowers in.
Yeah. So anyhow, Angus is online, but he's asking too many questions here, so he can generate his own show and invite you along. He's not gonna railroad mine. I might not be able to beat him on the track all the time, but I can in this podcast. So, Foggy, get to the back. Yeah, look, it would be really an honour to have you come over, Stephen, and drive the car. So it is genuine, and you know it is, and it would be just a fitting thing, we think, to the tribute car to actually follow through, and both the second generations having had a steer of it. We actually asked Dick if he wanted to hop in it at Hampton Downs a couple of years ago. He said, mate, these things are harder to get into these days, so we left him to it.
Yeah, you should have seen him while it was at the start of, obviously, 2020 when we finished building our XD, and we did the shakedown, launch day and ride day at Lakeside, which was really, really cool to be able to debut the car there. And, Dad, to his credit, did probably 25 odd rides, and it was quite a hot day, and the car still wasn't totally finished inside with regard to the floor where your feet are and everything. So it wasn't easy to drive. And yeah, he muscled that thing around pretty good in the hot, and he was whinging and complaining and bitching about the heat and give me some drinks and this and that. But I can tell you what, he enjoyed it thoroughly.
I'm sure he did, and I mean the punters themselves. I mean, how cool's that to all those years on, go down memory lane and the debut of the tribute car and the legend himself behind the wheel. So yeah,
he was. Can I just say he was looking a bit hot in the original XD on the parade lap at Bathurst just the other day.
I don't know if that's the temperature, Baz, or if that was his volume of liquid intake the night before. But I'll have to leave that one alone.
Yeah, well, I think
Luckily
we'll
you weren't here, Baz. Luckily you weren't here, otherwise you probably wouldn't have been allowed in it.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's a great segue, Stephen. I've got a few other images here that we're going to share with the punters, and I'll have to give you a bit of a commentary. But unfortunately, I must apologise for my esteemed friend here above you in the picture, and we'll bring one up here. But he seems to always find you guys wherever you go. You try and sneak away for a race meeting, and he keeps popping up. We've got one here with you. I think this one, Baz. Where's this?
That's a picture we had in your race trailer, Steve. When I went back to get one of your team shirts at Ipswich, and when you first just got the Mustang team shirts out, and we ended up going back to your trailer.
I remember it. Yeah, I do remember that, and because I remember standing with you with Mum and Dad in the Supercars pit lane garage there as well.
That's right. That was the same weekend. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So you mentioned your uncle before, and I've actually found one here back at Muscle Car Masters. Again, it's no surprise that Baz has got a beer in his hand, but he hunted out Dino.
Dino. Yeah, that was a fluke, an absolute fluke. In fact, you can tell by my face, I'd pretty much had an all-nighter. But we went, we took a few over to, that was the Muscle Cars in 213 Muscle Car Masters.
Yeah.
And I thought that 4X, by the beer tent, there was a stand there, and you could a viewing platform. And so me and a couple of mates went up there, and there was a leaner at the front. I thought we were too late for that one. But anyway, we sort of muscled our way in after a while. We got yakking with these guys, and sure enough, that's who it was Dino and a couple of his mates from Sydney. I think it was 2 or 3 mates.
Yeah.
And we never left for the rest of the day. We stayed there for the rest of the day. Said it was fun.
Good
times.
Yeah, but
no stalking. There was no stalking. That was
just around. So just to round out the family photos, we've put one up here with Kelly, Dick, and Jill. He's got the trifecta going in this photo, so he's certainly bragging rights.
I've even got the Shell V-Power stand in the background. That was a teammates' night. So that was a long day because we only flew in sort of that morning and then had a bit of stuff to do. But yeah, got to the teammates' night, and so I wasn't going to go all that way and not pose.
As Barry never wastes the crowd. Or no, hang on, that's never waste a beer. Never waste a beer. That's it. Sorry, I've got to get it right.
Try not to waste anything.
So yeah, look, we've been hassling you for a while, and like I say, it's great to keep in touch. It's great to keep the memories of what our two fathers did together. I know growing up around, having your dad around driving my old man's car was pretty special, and to get to drive a tribute car again and have you come down one day, that'll just round it all off. So look, hey Stephen, we said we were going to grab you for 5 or 10 minutes, and I know we've used a little bit more than our allocated slot, so hopefully the invoice in the mail is not going to be too big.
No, all good.
But hey, look, it's great to have you. You're a champion bloke, and obviously pretty good behind the wheel. 3-time TCM champion. It's pretty cool, and we look forward to having you down here in little old NZ to have a steer one day. So thanks for sharing some time with us this evening.
Steve, I'll look after you. I'll look after you, mate, while you're here.
Thanks, Baz. I know you will, mate. I know you will. And I can tell you, some of my most fondest racing memories are from New Zealand when I was over there racing Trans Ams, racing against, likes of Andy McElroy and Ashley Stitchbury, late Ashley Stitchbury, Kane Scott, Jimmy Richards. I've got photos over there back in the days from, obviously from Pukekohe, sitting in Paul Radisic's Formula Atlantic, Craig Baird's Formula Atlantic. I've known those guys for a lot of years as well. So, I put a lot down of my racing career to what I did in New Zealand. And, as I said, traveling around New Zealand, doing that Trans Am Championship throughout all the tracks, right from Auckland to Pukekohe right down to Invercargill. It was just thoroughly enjoyable, and I miss some of those days, that's for sure. Plus, I had my biggest accident there too at Manfield. So
I wasn't going to bring up the broken leg one, but you did yourself. Yeah, that was pretty traumatic in the Trans Am.
My most, obviously, it was broken leg and broken collarbones and a broken nose. And my proudest moment of that was that I had obviously went to hospital and I got the leg cast on, everything else fixed up or half fixed up, and I was out with Andy McElroy and all the boys at the pub that night. So it was all good.
Good effort. Good effort.
Well,
I knew you'd be proud of that, Baz.
Well, on that note, I'm sure there's a few beverages sitting at Baz's bar that are getting warm that Barry will want to deal to. So we'll sign off. Say thanks again, Stephen, and we look forward to catching up with you in person at the racetrack sometime soon.
Absolutely, guys. Can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.